Hello. Hello again.
Hello.
Hello, Jen.
Hello,
Janice, you made
guys.
it. Wonderful. Hi.
Hi.
Hello.
Hello. Hi, Celia.
Nice to meet you.
Hi. Wonderful to
Nice
meet
to meet you.
you. Hi, everyone. So we're gathering for the Live in Love. And today we're going to be talking about the cycle. Is rebirth and reincarnation one and the same? Be great. Open your mic, say hello.
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 Love you.
I
Hello.
love you.
Nice to see everybody.
Hello.
Hi,
Hi,
everyone.
Gabby.
Hi. I'm sitting in my car.
Hello.
Love to see you again.
Wonderful. Here we go.
This is so great that you're all opening your mics to say hello. Ooh, that's interesting, hun.
Ooh.
Oh, I didn't mean to hit that, but that's cute, isn't it?
How'd you
That come
do
off
that?
normal.
Here's the Live in
Sorry,
Love after all.
that was cute. And now it's down.
So, forgive us. We've been trying to get some technology
We've had
moving around here this morning,
an interesting internet play this morning.
but I'm glad your guys' mics are open. You know, we encouraged you all last week to play around a little bit with the questions that we formulated. And I again, I want to take us back to the beginning of the month, because this month, starting with the many meanings of death, really opened a lot of pathways for conversation. And we spent a lot of time
Eric and Jillian, you need to unmute. I'm sorry.
did you miss all of that?
No, it was, Cecilia just accidentally muted us and
Oh,
then we had to
okay.
unmute us, I think.
That's what happened.
Okay.
Yeah.
So there were just very delicate and vulnerable and beautiful sharings that sort of started off around the many meanings of death in the first week of April. And then as we moved into the alchemy of death, it got really playful. So again, I want you to go back into the RLC if that isn't a place that you frequent on Facebook very often, and just take a peek through the musings that were shared. I think there's a lot to simmer in. Then last week, we touched on death and rebirth in terms of finding your form. And part of that was to begin to explore this idea of rebirth. And we left you with several questions. I'm not going to reiterate all the questions. I want to share something that Terry Larkin posted around the questions. And I'm just going to read it as quickly as I can, but I think it's a beautiful opening to the conversation that we're going to have today, which is the cycle of birth and death. And this question, even the pageantry, my mouth has been on so many phone calls and talking so much, it's a little bumbly today, but this idea of rebirth and reincarnation being something different comes with a lot of mythology, a lot of taking what may be very simple and pure ideas in a way, and the personalization that happens as the mind looks to understand and qualify and manifest and create through imagination, just like science and spirituality, have taken their course where they've been so separate and distinct, and then really only to come back to merge again. I think that this question of death and rebirth, and specifically rebirth and reincarnation being in a way one and the same, I'd love all of you to explore freely today with us as we move through. But Terry shares a couple of days ago Our eternal life is a constant cycle of death and rebirth, all happening at once. Death is the illusion, yet we find our human self awakening and evolving into new life, just like the very old tree blossoming out in new gorgeous blossoms each year. Nature is constantly modeling for us. We are all being, uppercase BE, being light in every moment of our existence, whether we are blooming or not. Whether we are blooming or not. Sometimes we find ourselves in rest mode, like in winter for the tree or the tulip bulb, until we recognize there's a constant, gradual shift taking place, like many call dying and rebirth. And I love so much about what Terry shared here in the sense that she chose to use the word constant, continuous, unending. It isn't that there are pieces or portions to this cycle, but we come to recognize that it is constant. We might suddenly wake up because of a life-altering shift, like experiencing my soul without my body during my near-death experience and trying to figure that one out, like likely all of you have experienced some life-altering shift. So beautifully stated. A reconnective healing session can bring in any number of amazing miracles as you allow the blossoming of your soul. And we did share a little last week that the soul requires a body in a way. I'm going to leave that with that. Surrender is our opportunity to create the new. Letting go of old beliefs that no longer served me brought new creation in my life. And creativity is a very integral part of Terry's existence. So that new creation, the surrender, letting go of old beliefs. Rumi would say, die before you die, in a way, brings new creation. Yes, there were uncomfortable emotions as I adjusted to this new view of myself, but I know I was creating, underlined, the new, uppercase, the new me in every moment. I still am doing that. When I listen to my soul's desires, love is rebirthing in every moment. In that setting me on a healing path? Is that setting me on a healing path? And that's a question. I am convinced that it is. Convinced is another way of saying confirmation. And when we have a profound calling, sometimes a near-death experience can be that profound calling. As you may have heard me say earlier, we open the door to the attraction of foes to divert from that profound calling. So when we are convinced or there's confirmation, that is a listening moment. It allows me to simply be out in our life as my authentic self. I'm going to say true being. When I read all of your posts here on the RLC, I see a love that is rebirthing in you in every moment too. We can feel oneness, we can hear oneness, and we can see oneness and smell and taste. I can't wait to use all of my senses to experience the oneness with all of you that might be coming to New York in May. Whoops, that's some of you, not all of you, but don't worry. I'll be seeing you there. And if not, I'll feel you there anyway. Anyway, Terry, it was such a beautiful sharing.
Beautiful.
Thank you so much for that contribution. And since today is this cycle of birth and death, rebirth and reincarnation, I want us to open with this. Today, Eric is we're going to move all of us through a guided conversation. So there will be a listening and a state of form and action. But this idea of, is death just surrender? And is rebirth and reincarnation one and the same? We'd love you, just instinct, put something into the chat that you may feel or wonder about. Even it's not that we're looking for you to define, it could just be yes or no. Is rebirth and reincarnation for you one and the same?
So take a quick little minute, take about 60 seconds, pop something in.
Okay. And Cecilia, I'm going to ask you to just narrate some of these sharings, points of view.
Mhm. Okay, so Lula says, yes, it is for one and the same for me. Lisa Van Kotsveld says, no, because we can be reborn many times in one lifetime. Ufuk didn't understand the question. Barbara says, to me, rebirth is larger than and encompasses reincarnation. Janice says, yes, the same, and it happens often while living life. Miriam says, it is not the same, but I cannot really explain. Darren says, my sense is they are most alike, more alike than different, and maybe even the exact same. Harry says, yes. Katharina says, reincarnation, going back into the flash. Reincarn for birth for me is a much wider concept that applies to beginnings and creation. And John says, rebirth to means anytime your viewpoint is changed drastically, but reincarnation to me is a new body and form.
Mm-hmm.
And it's interesting too, because for example, as we touched on last week, we mentioned, I believe, is that there's a distinction between Hindus and Buddhists in reincarnation versus rebirthing. And even within the Buddhists, there's the traditional Buddhist approach and there's a changing Buddhist approach. And in looking it up, you find interesting variations. So if it's a topic that interests you, that you find some of your interest in the details and the delineations, there's a lot you can find on the internet about it.
So I just want to address Lisa for a moment. Lisa, the idea of the question is to take the box of a lifetime as a qualifier out of this question. In other words, if we're looking at and exploring the idea of rebirth and reincarnating, the idea that it having to be a quote unquote separate lifetime. Science is defining for us multiple planes of existence, simultaneity, consciousness is no longer in any way qualified by, we'll say, a 3 or 4 or even multiple dimensional existences. The idea that either rebirth or reincarnation are tied to a religious pathway is something that we want to create a little more, and that I'm not suggesting that you were a little more fluidity around. The reason that I wanted to share Terry's perspective in the beginning, I was hoping it would sort of and will soften some of the way that word reincarnation has been used. And John, you brought up a really interesting perspective, which is that rebirth is something of the mind in a way, whereas reincarnation would be something of the body in form or form.
And there are also some of the distinctions are whether the person comes back as the same person in a different body, or whether the soul comes back and transforms another way. So there are many potentials, but in the concept of saying it's not necessary, it's not of a religious experience, it really most likely for the most impact isn't, because although our religions define by rules and shoulds and shouldn'ts and do's and don'ts, it tends to be the spirituality in the religions, and sometimes without the religions, outside of the religions, that serve as the awakenings for us, where suddenly we're not focused on it should, it shouldn't, it's this way, it's that way. Instead, it's the unveiling, the revealing of us on a level that was not anticipated by any way or discovered in the reading about or the hearing about as much as it is in the experience itself.
And tied to it is often our ambition and ego are the two biggest obstacles to ending this cycle of reincarnation. So there is some interesting messaging around ultimately rising into this enlightened rebirth to a place where you are no longer in need of the vessel called the body. And we really need to consider that as being maybe a little short-sighted in a way. The body provides a very interesting vessel component to all experience, just like an annual in the world of nature. When you plant an annual and it moves through its cycle, it arrives again reincarnated in that new year, as it isn't the same flower, yet it is the same stem, source, and seed. And so we can separate human, animal, plant, but really, are we ready? Certainly in the reconnective healing experience, all those boxes fall away. All that separation falls away, and we kind of are left with, what are the pros and cons of all energies belonging to my true nature awareness?
Because as we touched on, there are certain things that require physical to be experienced, but is the physical required for the existence of that which experiences?
Yeah, so one of the questions that came up, you want to share that question?
Sure. Okay, so as we said, of the pros and cons, all energies belonging to the true nature of awareness, loving, not loving, good, bad, etc. Does this match up with direct experience when it's investigated, of good, of bad, of flowing or still, either really or any? And the above questions, they approach awareness, let's say, with a lot of added concepts and beliefs, such as the belief that there are things in awareness, as if awareness is taking on attributes of good and bad. And if there are things in awareness, then you also have to wonder, is awareness a thing? Which we realize it's not. So there are attributes of good and bad, and energies becoming both. The trouble, let's say, with that belief is, well, as with any belief, it's a belief. It's purely conceptual. Beliefs are conceptual. When investigated, it doesn't really match up with the direct experience. So, for example, if we go to awareness right now.
Wait, you can't.
I know,
The
because it's
YouTubers
time
have
to
to go
say
bye-bye.
goodbye to the YouTubers. YouTubers, click on the link below. Come join us, interact with us in our gatherings here at the Reconnective Life Community. The first month is free.
Or you can
subscribe in the
subscribe
link.
and come to join the RH Yoga, which is on Saturday.
On Saturdays, that's good.
If these kinds of conversations are not exactly your stilo, come play with us in the RH Yoga series. All right, bye.
We'll see you soon.
Click on the link.
So let's go to the concept of awareness right now, okay? Simply existing as awareness, which is really what we are, is that good? Is it bad? I mean, be with awareness. Does something trigger you as either good or bad, or either? Or is there a flowing to it? Is it still? And do any of these words actually even make sense in relation to that which is formless? And hear that again. Good, bad. Hey there, family. Dr. Eric and Jillian here.
Welcome, everyone.
And we're very excited about Reconnective Life, our first online global community. This is the most exciting way we've been able to get together since I founded the Reconnection. Is to be a place where we can do things together. We'll move into breakout rooms at times when that's appropriate. We'll have energy interactions and meditations and exercises. In other words, expect things you haven't seen before.
You are so charged.
Things we
He is so lit about every new way we get to be together every day. Just be together. Let us just speak a little bit about what is going to be the shape of this community.
In this community, we can share and discover more. Here we can talk to each other, we can chat, we can learn from and about one another. Jillian, me, our life leaders, and you will be in daily conversation with you. Weekly, we will have Facebook Lives.
We will be with you every Wednesday. Sometimes it'll be just Eric. On occasion, it might just be me. Sometimes it'll be the two of us. It's all about giving you a way to look at the week living in the frequencies.
And in every fourth week, we will include a live Q&A so we can talk about the things that have been coming up for us, discuss back and forth, share, grow, expand together.
And the ever-growing library of content that has been created over 20 years that will be on demand for you. It will be on-demand content for you to view, enjoy, share again with your inner circle.
And monthly, we are going to have live Zoom retreats. We're going to bring in some exercises and experiences and things that previously we've reserved for our physical retreats, you know, when we were in the different location resorts and things. And we're modifying them so that we can work with these with you in your home, in your living room, in your den. Put into the chat line, what is facility? We're having these weekly Zoom in-depth Q&As.
Finally, they have a place and space to just define what does that really mean living in the frequencies.
This is something that is in all of us.
Everyone can do this.
It doesn't matter how many levels you've gone through or how well you know the programs. It's a community that allows us to recognize how interrelated we all are as receivers of energy, light, and information.
See you there.
Reconnective Life, living in the frequencies every day.
Namaste, everyone. Good morning, namaste. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are joining us from wherever you are. We are so glad, as always, to have you all here. Welcome to This Is Our Way Up. And I want you to think up. Now, I don't want you to think bending to the side. I want you to think up, breathing up. Inhale the frequencies, up from the tailbone, up to the big ball in the hand. And as you exhale, reach out and up. Reach up and over. Pull it up into your thigh. Now reach your hands out to the side. Establish your connection to the frequencies in your palms right now.
Minded people, and especially if we're all brought together by the healing frequencies, what better way to spend our Saturday?
As you exhale, begin to walk your hands towards your feet, and that
Awareness on the frequencies, rise up, lift the ball of frequencies up overhead.
You know, heart opening in our heart, in our world, not just in our yoga practice, but anytime, the more that we can open our heart, the more that we have access to our joy. So heart openers in yoga, pull your left hand across your pelvis act like pulling the drawstring on a bow so that it pulls you back. You reach way, way forward, reaching way forward with the right hand. Drop the right hand down either to the ground, in front or in back, or perhaps resting on your shin. Use the hand to open the stomach muscles, the ribs, so that your back is flat to the back wall. Reach the hand out